No, it'll be
And we
posted
get another
after
one
the
before
fact.
the
Well,
year.
no, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we're not live streaming. Right?
No, I knew that.
Or 24 budget. We can, yeah.
Hi, Ben.
We didn't know what it was.
All right, well, it's 6 o'clock. Let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, and thank you to the Budget Committee members who are here and who've been working hard in getting the budget together. Maybe to make life easy for our guests, we should make some adjustments to the agenda. Should we have Tim and John go first and then the budget?
I think that makes sense.
All right. Does anybody have any declarations of conflicts of interest? Okay, and we have 2 sets of minutes to review tonight, right, Judy?
Yes. Peter.
If anyone wants agendas, there's some here.
Did people have a chance to review? Was it January 13th and?
13th and 22nd,
Okay,
yes.
were there any further changes other than those we sent to Judy? All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the January 13th minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? And does
Aye.
somebody want to make a motion on the 27th? Since I wasn't here, I won't move.
I will move that those be approved as well.
Second.
No, only the select board can move and second things.
Oh, man, talk.
I did. Second.
I wasn't hearing where that was coming from.
Virtual, but he's a select board.
All right, so, any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Also, thank you. Did we have any communications from the public to report in the last 2 weeks?
I don't
Anything?
think I did.
Minor communications about snow plowing and removal, but I've been in contact with our contractor and they're attending it and promptly.
Okay, good. And the warrant that Irene sent out this afternoon. Do people have questions? I have a question about the scholarship.
We had a donation come in for the Wilson Scholarship. They wanted it to be added to the principal balance. The only way for us to put that in the trust account is to deposit it in our checking account and then request the bank move it. First Wealth Management, take it from the checking account and add it to that fund.
Okay,
It's interesting. I didn't see that as revenue. I saw it as an expense.
Yeah, and it went in, it's part of that $20,000 that came in as part of the general fund checking account balance. Everything that gets deposited, it gets added to that.
Yeah, and that's the one that was designated as Mission Square. Is that correct?
No, it's designated for the Wilson Scholarship Fund.
Ah, well, then what's the Mission Square 20,000 that was in there? Near the very end.
That is money that's matching money from the town, and it's also employee contributions into their retirement account.
Ah, okay. I just didn't went by me. Thank you.
were there any other questions on the warrant? All right, then, we're happy to sign those. Irene, are there any public comments before we start with our agenda? No, all right. Do you want to make the initial presentation about the donation of the property from the youth and scouting, or do you want to have John and Tim do that?
Sure, I can start. I was part of this group originally when I was still at Trekkers as sort of a partner organization that was in the area. And so I joined some of their meetings and you know, I will let John and Tim speak more on the state of the organization, but essentially when the furnace blew up and the building needed a bit more work and they realized that they were trying to support a facility that you know, whose number of participants has sort of dwindled and has long time been built on volunteerism, that the task was maybe a larger effort than, you know, was feasible to take on, and that it could potentially be sort of brought back to its original purpose if it were to be donated to the town to take over, with the idea that it would still serve and support youth in some sort of way. And so I'll let the folks that are here tonight say more on it.
What it was, we started an organization that was supporting Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in the area. At the time we did this back in the 90s, I think 92 started, we had a lot of kids that were involved in it, and you know, a lot of support, families and friends. You know, somewhere along the line, we acquired some land, and we were camping out there and found out that girls need more facilities for boys. So we decided to build a building, and in the process of building the building, we ended up, we have a 35 by 60 lodge. Basically, we built with donations and volunteers. We've been trying to keep it going since we built the building in 2000, and we've been using it quite regularly, but since then, the numbers have dwindled, like Brandon said. There's virtually no Boy Scouts in town anymore. We used to have a pretty large Boy Scout troop, and we had 3 or 4 Cub Scout packs, and we had 5 or 6 Girl Scout units. So there was a lot of kids and people using the facility. Right now, we are down to almost very few. And the other problem is, like Brandon said, we ran into a problem with the boiler that blew up on us, and it really caused some damage. And to get it back into shape, it's more than what we can raise the funding. Under our 501c3 designation, we are committed to, if we dissolve our organization, we have to turn our profits and proceeds in the buildings over to a group that has similar uses. And even from the beginning, we thought that if anything ever happened to us, we would turn it over to the town with the idea of, you know, rec department or whatever, and it still would support the kids or whatever. So right now, we're asking the town to take over our facility over there in Snows Point. We have, like I said, it's a 35 by 60 structure. It's sound. We just put a new roof on it last year. It's on 11 acres of land. And also to go with that, we have, I think it's approximately 25 acres of land down behind the transfer station that goes along with it. The land in behind the transfer station was, the first portion, I think, was like 8 acres, was given to the group with the same idea that it was supposed to be for the sport, the same, you know, the kids or whatever. So we're here to ask the town to put it on the warrant to accept it as a donation to the town. There's some. The building probably needs. About $100,000 worth of renovations to bring it back to. Usable condition.
How urgent is that need?
Like I said, the building is sound, we put a new roof on it, there's no heating in now, so the water's shut off, there is power there. The sooner the better, but it's not something that has to be done tomorrow.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know that it would require 100,000 to be usable, depending on what the uses are, but if you did want to put in new floors and bathrooms and a heat system and so on, and scale that over several years, then that is probably what the price tag would look at. If there were uses that didn't require all of those sort of amenities, then I think it could be used much earlier than 100,000 was invested
You
in.
could use it again, I agree, get a heating system in there and fix the plumbing. You're probably talking, you might want to put a floor in there. But yeah, it'd be less than 100,000. Get it so it's usable.
And what are you thinking about potential uses by the town?
That's part of why I've asked Ashley, our Parks and Rec director, to attend tonight. And I'm happy to see that. Was Ken on here? He thought he was. And so I know that the property next to the transfer station lines up well with a lot of the efforts that are already taking place in that area by the Conservation Commission, and so they could likely make some trail systems. And I'll let Ken speak to more specifics on that. The comp plan survey that was issued this summer, one of the areas that was identified was an increase in adult recreation in town. So we have senior programs and we have programs for school-aged youth, and really nothing in between. And so I would sort of task Ashley to, if we were to take this on, use this as a way to tend to support that, to try to support that goal. No, again, knowing that, if we are setting that as a goal for the department, our most successful goals are the ones that are funded with resources in one way or another. So Ashley, I don't know if you want to share a bit more about how your department could use the space.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing Brandon said is the lack of opportunities for the adult age group in our area. I brought back co-ed basketball and that's made about 20 young men very happy, but we need more than that. Brandon and I have discussed the possibility of rental equipment. Within the space, there's an exact area. It's like a little storage corner. We could get donations or find someone to donate from a company. We could do grants to get equipment. So in winters, like we used to get that are happening this year, someone wants to go snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, I could have an office there 2 days a week, come get your rentals in the summertime, grab some kayaks, canoes, fishing equipment, things like that, which granted are not just geared towards adults. However, adults are gonna be the ones utilizing that the most, and if they bring their family along, that's even better. The advantage of having an actual space, an indoor space would be great. I could host senior luncheons there. We could have, the scouts could obviously utilize the space. It would still be for the community. You could do movie nights, you could do cribbage nights, card nights. There's just a lot of random opportunity there. You could have a cornhole tournament inside. Granted, you could only set up a few boards. That's another possibility. And then I think 10, 11 acres outside, something that Ken, Brandon and I discussed was the trails along our town, and the ability to possibly do a fitness trail similar to what they have at the hospital. I'm not sure the costs of that. However, with my background, I think that we could easily utilize that space and create something. Even if the trail is only a half mile long, you can do a lot with that. I don't know, I think
Like a blank.
One other piece that is even much smaller picture in terms of how it could benefit that department and the town as a whole is that currently all of Ashley's equipment is stored upstairs in an unfinished office space. And so if we ever do run out of office space, one of our best avenues is to finish off the upstairs there, and it would create a rather large office for a much lower price tag than having to add on to the building if we could store her equipment over on Snows Point Road.
Quick technical question, does this actually require a town meeting vote, or is that a preferred way to deal with it? Because we did accept a donation of land as a board.
We talked about that, and my view is that because if we accept this property, it will have a price tag going forward, unlike that vacant land that we accepted the donation
On
the marsh. So I think that, yes, the public, if we're gonna need to spend money on the building, then the public should have a say over whether
A
we.
good inclusive way to look at it and see what the town wants. Yeah.
But and it's an opportunity for us to share the things that Brandon and Ashley have said about the fact that the community's made it clear they'd like to see more adult education, recreation programs.
And fun.
And we don't have a space where we can do that now.
Yeah.
What is the access to each parcel? Are they both landlocked?
No.
No?
The parcel on Snows Point has right away right off Snows Point Road.
Okay, and who's the property that has given us the right of way? Who owns that property? Some-
Actually, it's not right away. We own the property.
Okay,
We own
But
it.
is that a private road, Snows Point, or not?
It's
No,
a town
Town
road.
it's a town road.
okay. And how about the one behind the transfer station? That's
The-
landlocked, isn't it?
No,
No?
The council owns a strip of land right to
Okay, okay, all
that
right.
gate you see just before you get to the transfer station,
Uh-huh.
where all the pine trees are falling down on it. That's the access to that.
Okay, and does this
Who's
land
that speaking?
abut the
That was
online,
Tim.
right on the other side of it? Is that where this land is?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And what about drinking water at both sites? Are there wells?
There's a well and septic with the structure on Snows Point. There's no well
Yeah.
on the other. side.
Yeah, I can guess why. Yeah, okay. But there's septic there. Is there a septic field?
The
The
Walston
land
Road
behind-
property is
Yeah.
essentially just a forest wood
Okay,
lot
just a
right
piece of
now.
property.
Mhm.
Okay, okay, all right.
Ken, did you want to talk about opportunities? You're still muted.
No, yeah, I guess, Ashley and Brandon and I talked about, potential expansion of trails, and we were focused on the Walston Road property, which also borders the water company property. So from the Conservation Commission standpoint, the ability to expand the trails potentially from the Old Woods Farms trails gives us, a much larger and longer trail system, which a number of people have come to the Conservation Commission and asked for longer trails. So this is an opportunity to do that. And in addition, if we could tie those pieces together with permission from the water company to cross a portion of the water company property, we can tie all three together, and we could then put additional parking at the existing scouting property.
Hmm,
Good idea.
off a public road instead of the Old Woods Farm
Well,
location.
yeah, instead, because the Old Woods Farm has got the limited parking, and I think if we could find a way to have additional parking, it would make it's more accessible to more people.
Yeah, and is there the potential to tie this into the Meadowbrook Trail system as well?
Yeah, that gets a little bit more difficult because of crossing the brook. We'd have to figure a good way to cross the brook at that point, but yeah, the brook, I think, is actually, well, the Meadowbrook property is the other side of the brook from the transfer station property. So you're going further down the brook where it gets a little bit wider and creates a little bit more difficult, more costly approach to crossing it with a bridge there than at other locations.
Susie, do you want to say anything about the budget? I mean, the Parks and Rec Department has been a pretty low budget town department.
My question was about the electricity bill. I mean, it seems like that would be our only immediate cost. I gotta think that's fairly low. Is that correct, Jonathan?
$35 a month.
Yeah, especially right now, you know, with nobody. So, I mean, the cost going to take this on would be minimal. It gives us a lot of opportunities at a fairly low outlay of dollars, and it doesn't seem like any of the work is immediately necessary. We could use it just as a big box but it's got a brand new roof on it, so we could use it as a big box for 5 years.
Well, having seen Ashley's office and all the balls and things that are up there with 3 people sharing her space, there definitely is a need for storage somewhere.
Ground level.
I know, it would be great.
Pretty exciting. In good weather, you know, we could turn the water back on and have a usable bathroom. Uh-huh. And that's a well and septic, right? So there's no cost there.
That's right.
Okay.
But there's no bathroom there now.
No, there is a bathroom.
Oh, there is?
If you, there's no water to it at this moment.
Right,
It's shut off.
because
Yeah,
it's
so, but
winter.
during temperate periods of the year, when it's not gonna freeze, that water could be turned right back on, and there's electricity, so, you know, without, it just doesn't have heat. So it seems to me like it wouldn't be an enormous burden. There would
Hi.
be work going forward, but we can plan for that.
Should we bring this to the public in the May meeting and with a recommendation from the board?
Yes, so I'll make a motion that we prepare a warrant to propose the acceptance of this donation of its 2 separate properties from the St. George Youth and Scouting Group.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Jane? Sorry.
Mr. Min- Go ahead,
I
Tammy.
know the town's going to accept it, which I think is a good idea, but what would have happened had the town said, no, we don't want to deal with it?
We don't know.
Would it just been sold?
They can't sell it. They would have had to find a similar organization to accept it.
501c3 says that it has to go
It has to go.
to a similar purpose.
And once the town, excuse me, Mayor,
No, go ahead.
once the town has accepted it, if we found that we had not enough use for this building, the town could then sell it, correct?
I'm not sure.
Probably,
Well, you'd have to have another warrant.
right,
I think that
right.
The town would vote on it again.
But
Yeah.
right.
You could be a little imaginative about it and say that the sale price is going to be going towards recreation programs.
we could do
Yeah.
that too, but it doesn't even seem like we might have that restriction on it because the town is a municipality, not a 501c3.
Right, but and this is kind of getting into the weeds, but the purpose of that 501c3 rule is that if charitable purposes have been operating, then you're supposed to continue the use for that kind of purpose. And usually states attorneys general have to review those kinds of donations or transfers. but I don't know about the down the road business, but I think John's right that, you know, if we didn't have a use for it, but we wanted to take a chunk of money and spend it on other Parks and Rec things, that seems like a possibility. So are we, Van, did you have a question or
No,
Ken?
I'm fine.
I just had one question on the scouting property on Walston Road. That's actually two separate lot parcels, and that we're talking about both parcels. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there are a total of 3 parcels, 1 on Snows Point and 2 near the transfer
Are
station.
the two on Walson Road contiguous?
Yeah.
They border, so you could think of it as one, even though it's two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we ready to vote? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for a constructive discussion about what's an exciting opportunity, I think.
I really don't see a downside to this.
But, right, but it is an opportunity for Brandon and Ashley to make a presentation about the uses of this when we present it to the public. So be thinking about that. All right, so now we'll move on to,
Ashley, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to leave.
although it's riveting, you should feel free to stay. Thank you, Tim and John.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. You're both very familiar with what happens next. All right, Brandon, you and Susie have the floor.
Technically, our abatements are up next on the agenda.
Okay, well, I was moving them up, but if those are quick, should we do that?
Well, they were.
And then we can have.
Yeah, I think they'll be quick.
Okay, and then we can have Jackie depart as well.
Mhm.
She probably would appreciate that.
No, no worries. Thanks for squeezing me in. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 2 abatements for tonight. I believe, Brandon, you may have those with you. So, I suppose it doesn't matter which one we start with. They're very similar in nature. It's an incorrect acreage that has been brought to my attention that I have since corrected for the 2024 commitment. The Salote abatement, they brought in a survey that demonstrates that the acreage that we had on file was incorrect slightly. So the abatement is reimbursing a portion of their property tax from the 2024 commitment. For the Smith abatement, this is either an incorrect processing of a split that had happened a couple years back, or we had the incorrect acreage of their larger parcel, and then when we took out the split, we did the math and it didn't add up to what they actually retained. So I now have information that demonstrates what they actually do have and should have been taxed for the 2024 commitment. So this is correcting their acreage as well. So it's more of like a math abatement for both of them versus an opinion of value abatement. But I support both of these and happy to answer any questions you guys might have about them.
We'll take just a minute while people have a chance to review the paperwork we're sending down.
Okay.
How did these come to light?
Mr. Sloat had come in at some point in the last few weeks. So he had noted that his acreage appeared incorrect. So he brought in a survey, and I drafted it myself and just confirmed that the total acreage made sense, and matched what he thought that he had. And then the Smith, I believe there may have been a history of this one. So I believe he may have brought this to the town's attention sometime this summer. And it had not really been, there hadn't been a resolution that we had come to until it was brought back to my attention last week. Other than that, I don't know too much of the history. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jackie, just because I'm not there with the paperwork, which Smith was this?
H. Preston Smith and his, I believe, wife, whose name I am blanking on, but if someone might.
Thank you. That's good.
Sarah,
Prescott.
Prescott and Sarah.
Prescott. Yeah.
over near you and Steve, right? All those Smiths are near you guys.
To me.
Mhm. So are there any questions? All right, so we're acting now as Board of Assessors, is that correct?
Correct.
And I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendations of the assessor's agent as to both of these abatements. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Jackie.
You need to sign these.
Jackie, do
Ew.
you have a question for the board about procedure?
I did. If there's time to do that now, we can discuss it now.
Go ahead.
So I'll try to make it quick. As I was digging into some of our paperwork, I had come across a document that was included in our book of open space exemption application. And the document was outlining a procedure for approval of open space applications. And there were a number of things that it required, but one of the things it required was coming before you with any new open space applications that were received by the town office. So you would be approving them in your capacity as the Board of Assessors. So this document, I believe, was from like 2009. So it's been a little bit, and I was not sure if this is a process that we currently follow or would like to follow. And then my follow-up question is to that is, if we would like to follow this process for open space, would we also want to require this process for all other current use programs such as tree growth, working waterfront, et cetera?
And I would say that it is pretty typical that an assessor would decide whether or not something was open space or not.
The agent
Yes,
as opposed to the assessors. That's how it works in
Yes.
other towns you work with?
That is how it works in the other towns I work with. I did speak with my father as well, who's also a career assessor, and he has a number of current clients and past clients that he has never brought it forward, any of these current use applications to the board. I'm happy to follow whatever you all feel is in the best interest of the town, but I wanted to make sure I asked before I went against a document that I found.
Tammy, do you know whether in your experience, which is longer than all of the rest of us, whether this has been something that's happened in your tenure on the board? Have they brought open space
I don't
designations?
remember anything to do with open space designation. Or signing anything, or anybody even coming to discuss it.
You know what, having just gone to, I mean, it was November or whatever, but having attended that webinar on assessing, I just want to make sure that we can delegate this to you. If we can, I'm all for it. I don't, I mean, and obviously that's your experience and your father's experience. But I know there were some things that said we could not delegate, but I don't remember off the top of my head what they are.
Yeah, probably. I would say it's so if it is something that is not able to be delegated, I would have that would go against all of the processes that I've followed, but I'm happy to double check and make sure that that's true. I do know there are a number of other things you can't delegate, for instance, the actual tax commitment and abatements. But if you'd like me to make sure we do our due diligence and check in on that with Maine Revenue Services, I'm sure it would take just a quick email for me to verify that and get back to you.
Okay, that'd be great, because I think
Sure.
we're all likely to be happy to delegate that to you so long as we can.
Okay. Well,
All
I can
right.
get back to you guys before the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Have a good night, you guys.
thanks,
too.
Jackie.
All right, now we'll do the budget review.
Great. Well, I'd like to start by acknowledging that there was an article in the Midcoast Villager today about the town's budgeting process. Stephen Betts had asked for the worksheet that we would be reviewing tonight. And with it being a public document, I sent it to him and made myself available for any questions, to which he had none. And so the way that the article is written, it gives.
Is misleading.
It is misleading. It gives the appearance that I am a much more conservative budgeter than the budget committee is, and that, you know, our recommendations are at odds in almost every department. So folks here are aware of how the process went. You know, Irene tracks my original recommendations that then I spent time and worked through the select board with and with the budget committee with, and that's what's being brought to you tonight is a set of recommendations that has agreement from both myself and the budget committee. But I thought that in case folks saw that article, it would be helpful to understand the context behind it.
Yeah, I just think it's helpful to clear that up because I saw it this like an hour before coming here and I thought this is not going to be helpful if people think, oh, that's true when.
It'd be very helpful for me.
Well, except the truth is important and the truth is that the budget committee and Brandon met at least 3 times, right?
What?
Was it 3
We
times?
met 4 times.
4 times.
But there's not a ton of narrative accompanying the article, but it lists my recommendations and then the budget committees when in reality, what's listed as the budget committee recommendation is coming from all of us. And this is really just a tracking process that Irene.
This is the consensus budget.
Correct.
First draft or second draft.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's looking for a little controversy, maybe.
All right, so then how do you want to proceed?
So
with this?
my intent tonight was to go through the first 7 departments of the budget. Like I said, I've met with the budget committee several times now and we've gone line by line and then back to every line. And so my plan was to highlight some of the major changes and differences for you all. And then if you have any questions about specific lines, leave space for that. Does that work for this group?
Is this the same, is this printout the same as what was emailed today so that Van can be looking at
Yes.
the same thing?
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
Well, actually, Van's got a little more detail than what's printed.
okay.
Because you can expand out on it. So to start, I suggested 3% raises to town employees with a couple of exceptions that were merit-based. And so those 3% raises are reflected here. Cost of living is at 2.5%. There was a year where some employees never received cost of living that they were expecting to. And so we went with slightly over the cost of living this year to try to make good on that rather than going back and giving everybody different rates of wages. And so that is some context there. So one of the raises that was in addition to that was larger than the 3% raise was under was for Bill Batty. Essentially, Bill has taken on all of our website administration as well as in-house IT. So getting new employees set up with all of the accounts that they need, their computers, everything. And so that is above and beyond his job description as a clerk. And so I wanted to recognize that. Other major changes in Department 1, you'll see a larger property maintenance line. I've pulled funds from the ambulance department and fire department's property maintenance lines. And I'm essentially putting this one facility, the town office and fire station, under one line so that we can track more accurately what it costs to maintain this building. So the ambulance will not have any property maintenance line left. You'll see some remaining for the fire department as they still have facilities on 73 and in Port Clyde. Otherwise,
in- Okay. Brandon, the only thing I was noticing there is you don't have any software licensing in there.
Yeah, there is.
That might,
There is
It's the
522.
under the zero
Yeah.
band.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
missed it. Yeah.
5222.
Yeah.
There's a zero, but 16K under it.
You're right. Okay, I'm fine.
oh, and one other piece to start that I should say is that this budget reflects a 7% increase over last year's budget. Just considering the areas that are within our control as a municipality, so not accounting for whatever increases come from the school or county.
7% over the previous year.
Mhm.
Half
So,
of which is payroll related.
Most of it is.
Half.
Yeah.
and then a significant amount is also setting money aside for purchasing
We have some
Fire
big
trucks and
buys this year.
ambulance.
Both gotta happen.
the harbor boat.
We have to finish the revaluation reserve. You know, we've been saving inadequately for several big ticket items and they need to get bought.
So
And
in,
we'll get to some of those specific ones, once they
In-
show up in each department.
in the town office, Department 1, I know that in our executive session conversation about Brandon's compensation, the select board raised the possibility that on his 1-year anniversary, he would also receive a raise, or at least we'd like the flexibility to give him a raise on his anniversary and then going forward, give him raises on his anniversary that would be merit where warranted. Can you tell me whether that's reflected in, whether we have room for that or not?
It's
It's
not.
not.
If you want the flexibility to award a merit-based pay increase, you're gonna need to add it to this number.
So you would just put a number in the select board recommended column.
Okay. Well, before we move on from this department, does anybody feel that we should be doing that?
I'm all for it.
Yeah. All right, and what kind of number or percentage would you say we should put in the select board recommended column there?
I would suggest at least 105.
105.
From 103 is where it is now. So he's
We
saying
have
2,000.
discretion to say what amount it would be if we, but what if we budgeted 5,000 and then we could decide how much we wanted to.
Well, that's a good idea. That's a good
See
idea.
how good a job Brandon does.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable amount. What,
What do you think?
That's fine. Yeah.
So put
Pam?
108 as the budget line.
okay. Did select board members have any other questions about Department 1?
No, not for me.
Okay, all right. Oh, and you've got capital improvements there on the top of the second page, and you've got 25,000. Can you just tell us what you're thinking about that?
Yeah, it's just that we have never really funded our capital improvements, or started saving for them, I should say. Obviously, we've funded them and, when we've needed to, we've funded them all at once rather than putting money aside for anything that may come up in the future. So if this building needs a new roof or boiler or whatever it may be, that it's not bottoming out a maintenance line.
You're really talking reserve accounts, right?
Yes. Mhm.
That's, I think, a really good way to budget. When I was in Waldeboro, we did a lot of that, and you're not paying interest on loans because you budgeted ahead and you're thinking of the future. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The more we can do that, I think the better.
I agree.
Greg?
Just to point there, that was one thing that was a kind of a common theme in our meetings and conversation is that we want to try and veer more that way than trying to save 100,000 in a year for 3 years, because we need to devote. But trying to plan that out and plan accordingly for longer periods of time so that we're looking more towards that future. And that's, to granted, what we're doing here.
Kind of softens the blow.
Yeah.
Well, and some things have jumped up in price so much since COVID that, I know prior select boards were trying to do that, but it's a higher hill to climb now.
Are we ready for Department 2?
Yep.
You'll see two major increases here. One is line 5511. Our assessing clerk. Essentially, this position has had its salary divvied out across 3 departments over the last several years. The majority of her work, this is Megan, is working with the assessor's agent, and a little bit with code enforcement, but because the bulk of it is done in the assessing world, I thought it made sense to pull this all into one department. So you'll have noticed a decrease in a line in Department 1 as well as Department 3 to reflect it. So this line is really just representative of a 3% increase on the salary. We just sort of reorganized how it's tracked. And then the other large increase you'll see is the reval reserve set with so line 5563. This is a figure that will get us to where we need to be after 2 years when it's time for our reval to be complete.
Good.
Any questions about Department 2? No, okay. Department 3?
There are no major changes to this department. The biggest change from last year is taking out the portion of Megan's position that used to come out of this department. The one piece that I will add is that there is a public land purchase reserve line at the bottom of this department. When Ken had submitted his request for the Conservation Commission, it included $25K for acquiring land. The Budget Committee felt that maybe that lived more appropriately under this department rather than tied into the Conservation Commission's line.
And I did speak to Ken about that, and he said that was exactly what he had in mind. The other thing is that this links to a reserve account that already exists for the town that is fairly low right now because of a land purchase, but when money comes back from Land for Maine's Future and we continue to fund this line, it'll put it back up where it needs to be.
So you all will remember that we discussed this when we talked about the select board policy about land acquisition. And the select board had felt that having about 50,000 in that reserve to have, earnest money down if we were to buy land would be a good number. And so putting 25 in this budget, like Sally said, there will be more than 25 when we get reimbursed from the Land for Maine's Future grant, that we're expecting some money to help repay for what we fronted with the Old Woods Farm purchase. It won't get us to 50, but
That's what I was gonna say.
Ken, do you know about how much we're expecting to come back from LMF?
From LMF, we'll get back 37. But I think we're currently in the negative right now. We're not, the account isn't positive because we took out 76, right? And we only
Well,
had,
I don't know. Irene, I thought told the budget committee there was 12,000 in there, but
Yeah, I think it's 14, but yeah, right around there.
so it may be that we're gonna be over 50 then,
That
which
would
would
be
be
good.
great. which would be great. But I did just want people to know that the fact that it says 25 doesn't mean that's all there's gonna be in there.
But after the money for Land for Maine's Future, we should be all set on, we would be able to just stand pat until we purchase land again.
Right.
Would you see this as something that we would fund every year?
No. I will fund it this year to get it back where it needs to be, and then it's it.
Well, I mean, I think if,
Unless we buy more land.
unless there were an opportunity that meant we,
You know, we could divert,
Decided.
well, no, this is for buying
Put a few
public.
bucks in there maybe if you're here, just to kind of.
yeah.
I mean, look at land prices, we wouldn't get much for 50,000.
It's only meant to be earnest money and then going to
Then
the
we have
town.
to work
for
out
chunk of
something.
change.
Right.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, we didn't fund it for many years. It sat at 42 for a number of years, and then we used it, and just the way we had intended to. Now we fill it back up, and then we sit. We could put in a marker if you want to, of 1,000 or something, but it's really, as far as I'm concerned, it's not necessary.
Any other, are we ready to move on to the fire department?
Yes.
Proportionally, this department, saw the largest increase. That's largely driven by, the fact that we are, putting or recommending that we put $150,000 away for the next fire truck. Just knowing, how quickly the prices of those are increasing. There were also several new firefighters that joined the department, which increases your cost for things like equipment and training and so on.
There's a drop in 6122.
Yeah, that is a position that Kevin the captain used to do for the town, and he he would do that work while he was on shift as a paramedic when he had downtime. He's no longer doing that work for the town. Ryan Klein is willing to take that work on in addition to his harbor master role, and so likely outside of his normal hours. And so I worked out a stipend that was agreeable with him, and we were able to cut that line down.
And the dispatch number has gone down by
Because we had an
9,000.
actual number.
And we do now, right?
Yeah.
This is the number the county, yeah. So as you all recall, we pay dispatch fees separately for fire and ambulance. And this 54 had been put in before we knew precisely what the county was gonna charge us. And now we know.
Well, I think we technically pay one dispatch fee and.
Oh, but you segregated out.
Expense it, yeah,
We just, we
separately.
split it between the
Okay.
two departments that it affects.
And the acquisition line 6253, that's the fire truck money, 150.
Correct.
Do people have any questions about the fire department? Susie's favorite department, animal control.
I do love this department.
Oh,
I don't have a ton of context to share. Let me know if you have any questions.
Done.
all right,
Done.
roads and property management.
Stevie Jarrett was the line 5162 maintenance person. That is the other raise that I recommended to the budget committee, beyond the 3%, just knowing that, Steve is doing the work of a small public works department, essentially by himself, and, you know, he can do anything from, you know, mowing our grass to replacing the floors in here to repairing shoulders on the side of the road. And and he's now plowing on town time for that work. And so his workload has been increasing. It used to be a bit more seasonal where he wouldn't be full-time in the, he would accrue comp time in the summer and then use it in the winter. And we now are having plenty of work year-round for him. And so just wanting to recognize him taking that on.
Is this enough?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But you have talked about the fact that in the future, we might need another person. So we should be thinking ahead to next year that that might be something we'll be hearing.
That I think is the bigger thing, before wanting to just continue to pile more work on to Steve and offer him more money for it. I would like to look at the sort of sustainability of the department and whether or not it would benefit from an additional employee, but that's for next year's conversation.
And if the town votes to accept the Snows Point donation, would we need to put money in this department for maintenance of that building?
No, it will be in.
Oh,
it's
Parks
in-
and Rec.
It's in Parks and Rec.
Okay.
currently.
and what you're looking at has resurfacing 7132 as 130K, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason that that is lower is that there was, some paving scheduled for this year, that did not get done, and so, I'll ask to carry forward those unspent funds at the end of this fiscal year into next and, hopefully be able to get us back on track for our 10-year road plan.
And on signs, that 10,000 that the community voted on last year, has that been spent to buy 3 signs?
No, that's happening this spring.
But that's in an account already. That's not, we don't.
That's not, I don't believe it was in this department either,
Oh, okay,
because it was added on at town meeting.
right.
I think it showed up elsewhere.
But we don't anticipate any other sign needs or anything.
No, I don't anticipate any other sign needs. We already have a lot, and when we added a few more this spring, I would want to begin to look at other areas or other ways to, sort of encourage traffic safety.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to solid waste? All right,
Yes.
At the bottom of the previous department, there was an equipment reserve for $25,000. You will see that also listed in this department. Is that listed in this? Yes,
it's
yep,
out
yeah,
there.
it is.
It's on 8263.
Yep. And so this is essentially for one piece of equipment that would be used between the two departments, a backhoe essentially that would serve the needs of the transfer station that they are currently using their Kubota tractor for. But also be able to do some of the shouldering work or small repair work to our roads that we currently aren't able to do. We have a contractor that sort of dictates the timeliness and responsiveness of our summer road work. If we could retain a little bit more of that in-house, it would hopefully mean that, one, we could be a bit more responsive, and 2, we would save money out of the contracted services line in time.
How much would the actual equipment cost?
We are still pricing them out. We're expecting around $75,000. So we've put 50 away this year. There's 23,000 currently in the transfer station's reserve for new equipment. And we would trade in the Kubota tractor that's at the transfer station. And so we're optimistic that we could get to where we need to this
That would be
year,
buying new, right?
depending on pricing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New or good use.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what's the payroll piece of the solid waste department? I see the benefits.
8111,
Yeah, okay,
those are your,
attendance.
yeah,
that's
those are
what-
your 3
okay,
transfer station employees.
Okay,
You'll remember we used to have 4 employees, which is why that line is higher when you look back to FY 24, we're
Yeah,
now running operations with 3 employees.
and that seems adequate.
Mhm.
Are we ready to move on?
Except we're done.
We are done for this evening. I had only,
Okay,
listed departments 1 through 7, just
Remind me why, property maintenance, in solid waste 50/70. How come that one included?
to
Is there a
5.
Plan for that? I'm on my one with no notes.
yes, there is a plan. Let's see, there is work that needs to be done to the electronics building.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the old plans. I know I have notes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. The other
So-
increase is in, the equipment purchase line, is 15,000. That is for, a new can that, essentially collects the trash in the hopper. They currently weld our cans, the staff there does, and we get as much life out of them as we can, but they reach a point where eventually, our contractor is unwilling to transport them until we replace them, and one of those is reaching that point, and so that's the increase of that line.
Van, did you have a question?
Well, no, in reviewing the budget with the extensive sheets that I have, just a point that when we look at the total for fiscal year 25, the bottom line that we're talking about is 494, 599. And yet, on the budget pie chart, it's $10,000 less. And so I'm just wondering what the discrepancy is in, in the two.
Sorry, which total?
At the very bottom of the initial request worksheet, before you get to revenues that I have,
Oh, so you're talking about a grand total?
yeah, the grand total for the stuff that we're dealing with is 4,594 that I have. And the pie chart you sent around,
Year 25.
But that's what year we're talking about, right?
yeah, is just $10,000 difference. So it's a minor point. We'll chat about it later, I guess.
Well, so your point is that doesn't reflect a 7% increase.
No, that's not,
Yeah.
he's wondering why the pie chart and this worksheet don't align. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure I could find where the $10,000 is not listed in one of them, though.
I'm sure. So at any rate, it's just interesting. Because
Good.
I was
Could have
basing
been
my
that-
because I
it
was
could have
basing
been
the,
that- It might have been that 10,000 that was voted on at the town meeting.
that's what I'm thinking it was, but we'll see. The only
Yeah.
other thing I noticed is when I looked at that number for fiscal year 25, that 4,594, and then I was looking at the totals that we have under the agreed upon worksheet at the 5,008 type of number, that gives me a 9.2% increase, not the 7%. So we'll
Uh,
see.
Irene,
The numbers cannot be compared because in the 24, we have taken out the 2 more items.
The
When you
dispatch
correct it,
numbers?
you have to
Dispatch
compare it
pay
to
the-
the 4917. And that was dispatcher and there's another
I think
number
there's,
we cannot control.
there's both of the dispatch
Both
numbers.
dispatch numbers.
Essentially,
So,
100,000.
so Van, a decision
Okay.
was made to not include those amounts we owe the county because we have no control over that.
Van, the 4,917,000, that is the number we can control.
Ah, okay, that explains the difference then. Fine, thank you.
So that's it for tonight on the budget review. All right,
Except to say to all of you what a great job Brandon did.
Yes.
thank you.
well, and also what a great job all of you did. And I'm really grateful for the 2 new members of your
Yep.
committee, and it's helpful. It was certainly helpful to me. It was my first time sitting in all this, and there were very rigorous discussions about every line item. And this committee worked really well with Brandon to get us to this place. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that we have a liquor license application to consider from the Causeway Restaurant.
And I've had no complaints about the Causeway.
All right, then, any discussion about that? No, okay,
We approve.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous.
Just a quick question.
Oh,
sure.
So that, because we've already had 5 years, so this is our 6th year, so that wasn't, I mean, after 5 years, where the state does require like a public notice, right? So that this was different than the last 5 years, just you all had to vote and sign it, right?
Mhm.
That's my understanding, so it didn't have to be posted and all that. Okay,
Right.
because I couldn't remember exactly what that, I knew there was. a-
Cutoff
after
was.
5 years.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that till you said that too, but,
Great, thank you.
You
okay,
made,
so do you want to pass that around?
It's online now.
Oh, so we've
You
authorized
vote and
you
then I go do it.
to do it, okay, so that's done. And now I haven't forgotten anything, right? We're ready for the town manager's report?
I'll start with, we need certificate of appointments signed for the Resilience Committee. We did their new members, but we didn't do any of the. See, as a,
Well, he will be going off the select board, so he's eligible to be a regular member of the Resilience Committee. But Van, I don't think Van was one of the people you had in your list at the
No, I
moment.
just have him as my liaison.
right, so he doesn't need one.
No,
And so anyway, we got the new members, but we didn't renew the
As long as we're on resilience,
current
please,
members.
writing up we've never had a report in the annual report, but I would like to do.
yes,
absolutely.
yes.
And I'm gonna send it in.
Thank you. It's true that, the Resilience Committee is technically
hoc.
still an ad hoc committee. Because only when we revise our charter can we add permanent committees. Clearly, this is one.
What you call it, but I feel
But
like.
there's no restriction on putting it in the town report.
No, and, the Resilience Committee should become a permanent committee, and that's also true for the Emergency Services Committee. But, in the meantime, they have just 1-year terms instead of the usual 3 because of the ad hoc nature of it. So that's why we're doing this. So,
You got everybody there?
so I have Susie, Ryan LaShane, Ingrid. Meg isn't supposed
Meg
to.
is a member.
Okay, and then there should be
Carl
one for
Danielson,
Carl
Tim
Danielson
Polkey.
I
and
got,
Tim Polkey.
you did.
Oh,
the
we
two
already
new
did
members,
those.
You just
Okay.
didn't do the
Oh, we didn't do.
continuing ones.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we, reappoint Susie, Ryan LaShane, Ingrid Mraz, and Meg Rasmussen.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, and I will.
Thank you.
As you've seen, we hired a new EMS director, Katie Jacob. She's worked with the service for a long time, here in town. She's currently full-time in Topsom and just worked in Waldeboro as well as some other departments. Very excited about, the perspective that she's bringing to the position. She brought up a lot of great ideas that balanced both a high level of patient care as well as cost efficiency to her interview. And so I'm looking forward to her starting. She starts March 1st. In the meantime, her and Amy Drinkwater, our current director, will work to help the transition. And Amy will then be completing her tenure with us at the end of the month. She may stay on as a per diem employee, but no longer full-time. And so, just make sure to wish Amy all the best when you see her. She has provided a long-standing, consistent leadership to the service year.
And can you recognize the people who are on the committee with you to help you choose?
That
a
was
director?
myself, Tara, Richard Bates, and then Benji, the
Dr.
Lowry.
Yes.
Dr. Lowry.
yes.
Yeah. Yes, thank you to those people for helping.
We had a strong pool of candidates, and so I feel very good about this process. You'll also see that Hannah Sisk was is going to be promoted to deputy chief, and I think together she just brings a really strong knowledge of the department currently and ideas for how to strengthen it. And so I think together they will lead quite well.
That's good news.
Yes.
Yes, very good news.
At the next meeting, I will be bringing new ordinances that are being proposed this spring to you all to review and vote on. So just be ready for that if you have questions on it.
And those three are the shellfish ordinance. The
Food-
food
food-
sovereignty, remember we heard about the
Mhm.
scones at the curb, and I've forgotten already.
Signing off on the warrant. Right, a select board member.
Oh, right, whether one select board member can come in and authorize payment from warrants other than payroll and the state and the school. That will be before us next time.
Again, that's, as you may remember, that's what had been being done for years here. We realized that that was not allowed, and so we changed that procedure. But the staff that handles accounts payable would prefer that we at least put it to voters. It makes things just much cleaner in-house and in terms of our own tracking and prompt payment and so on.
So if we approve it, we would then go back to what we used to do, but it would be legal.
We,
Yes.
right, but we would have to adopt an ordinance, so we
Yeah.
will vote on whether we want to put that to the public. And if we agree to that, then it goes on as a proposed ordinance.
But in some ways, it's sort of a housekeeping thing. We're gonna approve it one way or another, but this would make it easier.
We'll talk about the merits of it next time.
And then lastly, I heard back from Bill Kelly about I guess not lastly, but I heard back from Bill Kelly about the leases for the Lighthouse and the Historical Society. Without getting into too much detail, his recommendation is that he draft a lease for each of them for us so that it is a bit more consistent with what other municipalities look for in a lease. And he will share some feedback around length of lease and other terms. And so what I'm looking for from you all is sort of the authorization to have Bill Kelly do that rather than work off the leases that we're currently presented with.
I'll make a motion that we ask Bill Kelly to draft leases that reflect his advice to us about the 3 leases, not just 2.
Schoolhouse.
The little schoolhouse too.
I always forget about that.
I know, because they don't have a lease right now.
So move.
And provide it. So that's my motion.
Second.
Order a second. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And we did let, the Historical Society folks know that that's where this stands, and that next time we will be voting on proposed leases and hearing our lawyers' recommendations about those. And then if they don't like the leases, one or more leases, they can obviously put a separate version before the public. Anything else on your report?
We submitted a grant to support our community paramedicine program today for $76,000. And so we've received that grant in the past, hoping that we do again. I worked with Amy to help get that out, knowing that she won't be here to oversee it, so we're happy to get that in. And then I began working with the Resilience Committee on their RFP for the work that they are taking on around design around Factory Road and cold storage. And that is it for my report.
All right, committee reports, planning board.
The last time the planning board met, they considered an application, from Jamie Wyeth regarding repair and replacement of dock and pilings, floating ramp on Southern Island, which was damaged in the storms last year. And the application was found to be complete and it was also approved all in one meeting.
Board of Appeals
Nothing.
has not met. Harbor Committee, have they
They
met?
meet this Thursday.
Okay. The Budget Committee, you are well aware of what they've been doing. Tammy, the Cemetery Committee.
They were supposed to meet on Thursday, but that
Oh,
meeting was canceled due to snow. And they discussed, rescheduling another date, but several members are out of town. And with the ongoing threat of snow every other day,
Including Thursday.
they've decided to forego this month and they will have their meeting in March.
all right. And the Emergency Services Committee, I don't think there's anything in particular to report other than what Brandon's already said. They are looking to include some community education information in the town newsletter about, the fire and ambulance departments. And they've drafted some pieces, so we'll be seeing those in the next few months, which will be good, especially I think the community paramedicine program isn't, you know, as well known as we would like, so, that'll be good. And the Comprehensive Plan Committee has, an event planned at the school on Thursday night, at which they hope to hear more from parents and school-age kids, about the comprehensive plan goals. Snow date is March 4th.
And they're offering free pizza.
And they're offering free pizza courtesy of the CDC, which is very nice. The cheerleaders will be there. It's gonna be a real rah-rah for planning.
Is that at the same time as the harbor meeting? You know,
It's at 6. So you guys usually meet at 5?
Mhm.
Harbor
Yes.
Committee. The Conservation Commission,
Was going to meet last week, but got snowed out or
Right.
called it, and it will be this Thursday. May get snow again at 4 PM here in the town building.
Shellfish,
They meet Tuesday, February 18th at 5:30 in Warren. And the shellfish ordinance was passed in Thomaston. Voted on and passed.
and so did Jeff send you the final of that? Cause the last one that I saw circulated had redlining on it and stuff.
Oh, had the changes that were gonna be made.
Okay, but we have a final that,
Jeff has the final and I may have it in my computer. okay.
cause if you can send that to Brandon and Tara, then it'll be ready. Cause 2 weeks from tonight, we're gonna vote to advance those things onto before the voters. Solid waste is still on hiatus, I take it.
Yeah,
Parks and Rec,
They were meeting tonight.
I know that we gotta work on our conflict issue, but
it's more muscle reach focus, and then one other piece is that Ashley is administering a survey to seniors that participate in the senior luncheon program, just soliciting feedback in terms of what they hope for from the program. Both from luncheons to trips to whatever it may be.
good.
That's great.
Yeah, because that was mentioned in the comprehensive report, survey, that people wanted more programs for seniors, but we didn't ask them what they wanted. And the resilience committee, I think is there something else to report other than what Brandon said? Van?
No, I don't believe
Okay.
so.
No, that RFP is going out rather quickly though, and so that's exciting. I met with Susie to try to finalize it after their meeting, and so that should be progressing here in the next couple of weeks. I think the next week was the timeline to send it out, so I'm gonna post it.
And speaking of RFPs, we're not in a position to do one for the lighthouse work? Or you did?
That's in progress.
Okay.
Gartley and Dorsky are working on that currently. We are not yet in position to do one for Drift In Road. FEMA required I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, a hydraulic study
Yeah,
to
you did.
be done. And so that needs to happen first.
And how much is that gonna cost? Where are we gonna get the money for that?
I'm not sure. I'll figure it out.
Alrighty, well, if it's that easy, we can move right on.
I just don't have enough answers yet
Yeah.
Okay,
to speak to it.
all right, so are we done with our regular agenda and moving to go into executive session?
Yeah, and I left this piece just because we'd mentioned wanting any feedback from Jane, and so I figured I'd revisit it.
Good night.
All right, then,
Brandon, I forgot to ask, I got a communication, I could have mentioned it earlier, from Lorraine Walker and the Ripley Creek issue, and she was wondering if any testing had come back as far as
Yep,
DNA test.
we just got testing back and it showed a low fecal count in the water there,
Mhm.
which would, if there was a septic that was leaking into there, the fecal count would be much higher. And so we're gonna do another test either in a few weeks or again this spring. Sometimes you have to test it 2 or 3 times to find anything.
Okay.
And then Terry is wondering if it may be some sort of organic matter and is trying
It's
to,
a dead animal, yeah.
You
But,
do?
you know, I mean, septic, I hate to say this, but septic doesn't smell like what you think septic. Septic has like a sweet smell, because it's got, well, only if you're like sitting inside a porta potty, like, but if I'm serious, when waste comes out of houses, it's not a terrible smell. I'll just say that.
You've never
Noticeable.
stepped-
So-
But like your dishwasher, your washing machine, all that gray water is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
ju-
it's not, yeah. I mean,
just to wrap this up before Judy leaves. So Brandon, should we be able to rely on you that you'll be communicating with the Walkers about that and they don't need to contact select board members?
oh yeah, I talk to Lorraine every week and so does Terry.
So, okay.
Right.
All right, well then I'll make a motion that we enter into executive session to discuss the town report dedication. And it's 7:20, and I will let you know, Judy, when we wrapped up.
Okay.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you. Good night.